On Cape Sable Island in Nova Scotia, the cemetery workers are burying the body of a young fisherman. But this fisherman did not die at sea.
It's happened twice in this community in the last few months. Suicides.
It's depressing, and that's a young guy gone, and how many more to follow?
This fisherman was an activist who helped organize demonstrations against government fisheries policies that are hurting the small fishing communities.
He stuck with us. And if he can hear me tonight, I'll guarantee him one thing: we ain't giving up, and he wouldn't want us to.
Fred Sears, Ronnie Walkins, and Tony Cunningham are fighters. Since 1995, they have led a struggle that has made them occupy government buildings and camp outside others. A struggle that has defied government officials and the law.
We have spoken out against the government, and we will keep speaking out against the government.
A struggle to save their communities in the face of a government policy that wants to phase them out.
I'll never give up as long as, you know, I guess as long as I can walk, I'll never give up. But I do understand that how powerful and how corrupt that the whole system is.
This is Cape Sable Island on the southwest tip of Nova Scotia. People have fished here since 1763. It's a gateway to some of the most lucrative fishing grounds, George's Bank and Brown's Bank, that are still open in Atlantic Canada. Ronnie Walkins is president of the Southwest Fishermen's Rights Association, one of the groups representing fishermen on Cape Sable Island. He is engaged in a battle with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans to secure a future for the inshore fishermen of Nova Scotia and their children. The recent suicide death of his friend and others who have suffered the same fate reflects what is at stake in their communities.
Our way of life is being destroyed. It's being eliminated.
Ronnie has been fishing since he was 15 years old. Like others in his association, he uses only hooks and lines to ensure that only the highest quality of fish is harvested and no damage is done to the ocean ecosystem. He can make a sustainable living as an inshore fisherman. But the Department of Fisheries and Oceans has been reducing the share of quota allocated to the small boat fishery, and thereby forcing them to sell out to larger fishing corporations.
So that's why I don't understand what the government's coming from, saying, well, there's too many fishermen chasing too few fish, but yet the ones that catch the least amount of fish, the fishermen, are being squeezed out, but the ones that catch them all are being given them all. Well, one of them draggers, that one dragger up there lands more fish than probably our whole fleet would land. And I'm looking at 100 of us.
Since the 1950s, Canadian and multinational seafood companies using destructive bottom draggers have been overfishing the banks off Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. This has reduced what was one of the world's most bountiful fish stocks to almost extinction, and has devastated vast areas of the ocean bottom, making the recovery of the stocks almost impossible. The depletion of the groundfish stocks led to a virtual shutdown of the industry in 1992, which left 40,000 people out of work and was the single largest layoff in Canadian history. Despite this economic and environmental disaster, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans has allowed the corporations to continue the use of bottom draggers to harvest the fish stocks. The government has also reinforced the corporate control over the industry by setting up a private property quota system. Traditionally, there was an overall quota for each sector or association of fishermen, but the new system gives every boat an individual transferable quota, or ITQ. This quota can be bought, sold, or leased before the fish are even caught. The introduction of the ITQ system, both in Canada and other countries, has inevitably led to the concentration of ownership of a public resource by the most wealthy companies. Some inshore fishing associations, like Ronnie Walkin's group, have refused to go along with this privatized quota system because it will destroy the small boat fishery which sustains many coastal communities. Ronnie's association still fishes under a shared group quota, but the Department of Fisheries has reduced their allocation so much that they are now being literally starved out of the industry.
I think it's DFO's goal to destroy the fisheries, not save it, because if they're there to save it, they're not doing a very good job.
The fishermen in Ronnie's association are in a situation that is similar to thousands of inshore fishermen in Nova Scotia and across the Atlantic provinces. In 1996, 6 fishermen from his group occupied the Barrington Passage DFO office, which led to a mass movement of protests all across the region.
Say no! Say no! Say no to DFO!
Tony Cunningham was one of the leaders of the occupation.
These little guys like myself and Calvin and Michael keeps Cape Island going and Barrington going and all that. It's not these guys, not National, not Clearwater. They don't even probably know where Barrington is. It's the little guys that keep the community going, and that's why you got to keep the fish to the little guys, not the big corporations.
Fred Sears was another leader in the occupation. He has been an inshore fisherman for 30 years. He is now fighting to maintain the access of the small coastal communities to a fish resource that is quickly being bought up by corporations under the new privatized system set up by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans.
They have a plan. They want the fishery made so whoever's got the most money can buy it out.
Scott Nickerson, another participant in the occupation, has been an active representative of the fishermen in their fight to preserve their way of life.
What we got to do now, we got to prove the DFO in the world that the hook and line is the way. Fish don't mean nothing to them. It's all money-making business. We got a resource here that's worth millions of dollars a year. It's money and politics and power that comes first.
Natalie Davis is the wife of one of the fishermen in Ronnie's group. She has been an outspoken advocate for the community.
They want us out of the fishing industry, the small-scale fishermen, so that the corporations can have all the fish. But who's that's going to sustain? It's not going to sustain our coastal communities.
Back then I was told, well, it's a lot easier to look after a 5 large ship than it is 1,000 small ones.
He's easy to manage. I can tell him, I know how many he's catching, he's only one boat to look at. But the other way, on our way, that's 100 independent fishermen. Too much independence.
If I had probably could send somebody to Ottawa 24 hours a day to wine and dine with the Minister of Fisheries and buddy drinking partners, I'd probably get whatever I wanted. But we haven't got that kind of money.
We've stopped it from going full-blooded ITQs. No doubt about it. Shelburne County is the most powerful fishing community in Nova Scotia. And if they could break Shelburne County, they knew they had the rest left. Because that was the most powerful. And we've stopped them. We're still here. We're not supposed to be here.
An important court case begins today in Nova Scotia, and the men who stand accused hope it will lead to a change in the fishing industry. 2 years ago, they flouted the law. They fished for cod and haddock after the Department of Fisheries and Oceans told them they weren't allowed to fish anymore.
I got probably 10 times the fish I'm supposed to legally have, so it's up to them. They want to charge me, fine, get it over with, let's go to court.
Yeah, you can be charged for fishing during closed time or fishing without proper license. What's going on? Well, I'm not exactly sure. I also have to advise you to continue to fish. Again, it'll be a secondary charge. It'll be another charge. Okay.
Apparently inshore fishermen have no rights. Companies have all they want, all corporate control. It's what the government wants, but we don't want. We're just trying to prove we'll go to court. We've never hurt the fishermen. hook and lines. It's outrageous. The drag is still going wide open, and here we are tied to the wharf.
Sir, right now, I'm detaining you for fishing groundfish during the closed time. Do you understand?
If we don't have these fishermen and lobstermen fishing in these communities, our communities is gone.
That's what these fishermen are protesting. They wanted to be charged so they could go to court and challenge DFO's fisheries management under the charter. They say the fish are a public resource, but the government is privatizing the industry, and they say that threatens a centuries-old way of life and their right to work.
Tony's son, Michael Cunningham, is the first of the 12 fishermen who protested to be tried in court by the Canadian government.
I face a lot of pressures. Wonder if I'm going to be chucked in jail, because if the judge finds me guilty, I'm definitely not paying any fines. In my heart, when I went fishing in August, I didn't break no law.
DFO is after you guys in the inshore hook and line fishery because DFO thinks it can get away with it.
Don Grady, a sociology professor, is representing the 12 fishermen in court.
DFO has defined you as public enemy number 1 in the fishery. And the irony is, as we will demonstrate to the court, that it's you and your fishery that is the oldest standing, conservation-minded method of harvesting fish resources in the history of Canada.
Don Grady and the fishermen aim to use the trial to highlight the DFO's mismanagement of the fishery and persecution of hook and line fishermen. The DFO and Crown Prosecutor respond by stretching out the proceedings, hoping the fishermen run out of money or spirit.
You take somebody in to testify, they either won't allow them to testify, and as soon as they hear from someone that they don't like what they're saying, they call for postponement and another court date 3 months down the road to decide whether they're going to allow any more people to testify.
The trial is delayed yet again, and Michael is free for a while longer.
People that I grew up with, they don't speak to each other anymore over what the DFO has done in these communities. You know, they've turned everyone against each other. Like, they gave some people a lot of fish, and they gave other people very little fish. You know, it was not, we weren't treated fairly in the process.
Like my husband, he always used to take another man with him. Handlining 2 people is about all you need to go. It got to the point he could no longer afford, feasibly, to take that money from his children to give to somebody else, even though they needed it for theirs too. So with that happening, I had to go fishing with them.
Like, I have to work, because Tony's only got, like the rest of them's got, just can go fishing on just a low quota. And if I don't work, we lose everything, which we're about to lose anyway.
I got 2 children, 2 small children, mortgage payments. I'm only a young guy. Everything I'm right in the peak of everything, like a new home and everything I owe for.
It's a lot of women that's on drugs just to calm the nerve system down, to cope another day. Plus, it's a lot of people up in Yarmouth psychiatric ward that's probably, you'd have got one person in there probably in the last 5 years. Now you've got 27 men up there in just the last 2 weeks.
It's been very stressful trying to deal with the way, the mood swings my husband has because of the backstabbing. People are no longer friends anymore that were friends for 20 years. They're not friends anymore because you can go fishing and I have to sit home.
You know, you got a family, you got a little girl, gets up in the morning, looks you right in the eyes and says, "Daddy, why aren't you fishing?" You know, it affects everybody.
No more than a few nights ago, I was involved with a guy that called here. I talked to the man 3/4 of an hour. He cried for 3/4 of an hour. He said, "Tony, I have lost everything I got. My home, my truck, my car, probably my wife and 2 children. I'm out of a job." The guy that I was fishing with just decided to sell his fish. And what am I going to do?
If something don't soon change, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. More suicides, more breakups. I'll go to jail and lay it out till the law is changed.
In 1995, a new Fisheries Act was being proposed by the federal government. Brian Tobin, then Minister of Fisheries, came to Nova Scotia to reassure the fishing associations that he was not going to corporatize their industry.
I've made it very clear that those who say, and I'm delighted to say it again here, those who suggest that Canada should have a fishery, for example, like New Zealand, where 73% of the entire quota is held by only 8 companies, those who suggest that shouldn't hold their breath if they're waiting for me to try and build that kind of a structure. I believe in inshore fishermen, and I believe in coastal fishing communities, and I'm not going to turn the resource over in a concentrated manner to the hands of a few corporate interests in order to make so-called greater efficiencies.
But the government's new Fisheries Act was proposing to do just that. After Tobin's visit, the momentum of protest began to build, and members of the Southwest Fishermen's Rights Association took over the DFO office in Barrington Passage to protest against the new Fisheries Act.
I passed him a paper with our demands on. I explained to him that we was not here to destroy anything. We was peaceful and we'd stay peaceful.
Their main demand was to protect the equal access, equal opportunity fishery and stop the creation of a private property quota system to manage independent fishermen.
It's not going to be something that's going to be thrown away and forgot about. It's here, and it's here. It's got to be fought, and it's going to be fought hard. And they got to realize they might be in for a fight.
This stand sparked a wave of protest across Atlantic Canada. 6 more Department of Fisheries and Oceans offices across Nova Scotia and New Brunswick were occupied by fishermen. And people from their communities stood outside to support them. Then, 5,000 independent fishermen and their families marched upon the DFO offices in Halifax. Faced with the united protest of the fishing communities, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans finally agreed to a public meeting to discuss their demands.
Once it starts breaking down, you'll never get the support back again. Not like we've had it this time. So we got to go for all or go for nothing.
After 25 days, the 6 fishermen occupying the Barrington Passage office agreed to leave the building to attend the meetings with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans.
What happens if it's a con? Do you think you're going to get anything out of this?
If it is a con, you know, the whole public is watching. And for them to go do what we've been preaching now for 3 weeks, to stab us in the back again, I don't think it'd be a very good policy. It would be one of the poorest policies that they did put in place.
But it is a con. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans also invites to the meeting representatives from the entire fishing industry. The government refuses to concede any major changes to their privatized quota system, but agrees to shelve its proposed new Fisheries Act.
I think what the government has got in their mind is to, I think Mr. Churchill said it, united we stand, divided we fall.
Once they divide Shelburne, which they have divided Shelburne, and the ball is rolling.
Just separate the boys and get them all frustrated and get them ugly at each other and take one group and cut it back more than the other group, and so the other group will get mad at the other group, or let the other group go fishing and the other group not go fishing. Hey, that will fix them.
Now, where we've been so vocal fighting against the government. The boats, the fishermen who have decided to go with the IQ system won't even ask my husband. Even if they needed a man to go fishing, they wouldn't ask him because he's fighting against the very set of rules that they're fishing under.
A lot of the fishermen that's gone ITQs know it's wrong, and they tell us to keep fighting. And that's hard when you have someone on the other side of the fence. Like I told them, they're just like a knife in the center of my back. I'm just trying to reach them and I just can't reach it. Because they're on the other side of the fence, right, supporting this, and yet they want me to speak for them. Saying, keep up the good work, we need you, don't give it up. But they claim, well, they gotta go ITQs because they can't afford it.
In June 1998, Fred Sears, Scott Nickerson, Tony Cunningham, and Jack Hatfield protest the situation of the inshore fishery to the Nova Scotia government.
Nothing to lose. If you've lost it all and you got down low enough and they're kicking you, you got only one place coming, that's back up.
We chained ourselves to the flagpole in front of the provincial legislature in Halifax.
We asked for help, and no help came.
And they knew from the past, if they left us there any length of time, that we were going to draw support, and they had to get us out of there. So the first opportunity that they had, the first thing we knew, we were surrounded by about a dozen officers. Trespassing on private property, that's what they charged us with. And that's not private property, that's public property.
The four fishermen are ordered to attend 3 court dates. Each time, a demonstration is held outside the Halifax courthouse. The men are finally acquitted by the judge. The prosecution never presents any evidence.
It's a long struggle, and we have so many cases that we still have to go to court for, that just having one, smaller one out of the way is quite a bit of relief, It takes the pressure off some.
You were acquitted for this one, but the issues are still there. What's the next step?
They're still there, and we're still in court.
4 of us went to Halifax. 4 of us chained us off to the flagpole. Got bad news for you, there's only 3 of us now.
I lost one of my best friends that day. Sometime later he committed suicide.
Scott was the type of person, when you met him, and he put an impression on you, and you never forgot it.
If they call this freedom, have to tie your boats up and live off of what little bit of money they want to give you through the tags program, that's not freedom. Freedom is to be able to get up in the morning, go board your boat, go fishing, and try to make a living. And I'll stress the word try, because there's days you can't make a living.
I have a hard job to understand sometimes why he did what he did. But I guess sometimes when I sit down and think about it, I feel the same way that he does. Like, you feel so hopeless when you realize that the people that you try to deal with, or the people that you put in power, are so manipulating and so crooked that, they don't have the best interest of the people, not whatsoever. They don't. If they did, they wouldn't allow what's going on. They wouldn't allow it. He was a good friend.